I never thought the boy who once held my hand behind the schoolyard would one day put a ring on my finger. At first, it felt like a dream come true, marrying my first love. But dreams don't always stay sweet. Sometimes they twist into nightmares. The same heart that once made me feel alive started to make me bleed. And the story of how my first love became my greatest heartbreak begins. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other's names. The streets were quiet, the kind where children played until the sun dipped below the horizon. And right at the center of my world was Daniel. He wasn't just another boy. He was my best friend, my secret crush, my safe place. We met in kindergarten. Tiny hands holding crayons, drawing messy houses and stick figures. He always shared his snacks with me, even the ones he liked most. By middle school, he was the one who stood up for me when others teased. By high school, he was the one who walked me home, carrying my heavy books. I still remember the first time he told me he loved me. It wasn't dramatic. No roses, no grand gestures. It was just us, sitting on a swing in the park one cool evening. He looked at me, his eyes soft and nervous. And then he whispered, "I think I've loved you my whole life." My heart stopped. Then it raced faster than ever before. From that day on, we were inseparable. He became my first kiss, my first everything. Everyone in town called us the perfect pair. We went to the same college, stayed up late studying together, laughing over coffee. He dreamed of becoming an architect. I dreamed of teaching little kids. And somehow, our dreams fit together like puzzle pieces. When graduation came, he surprised me with a proposal. It wasn't fancy. No crowd, no lights, no stage. It was just us, in that same old park, sitting on that same swing. And with shaky hands, he slid a simple silver ring onto my finger. I cried, not because I was unsure, but because I'd never been more sure of anything. The wedding came quickly, small, intimate, filled with laughter and tears. I walked down the aisle, my heart pounding, my family watching, my mother crying softly. Daniel stood waiting, his smile wide, his eyes glassy with emotion. When we said our vows, I felt like nothing could ever break us. I thought, marrying your first love meant your story would always have a happy ending. Our first year together was pure magic. We moved into a small apartment, nothing luxurious, but filled with warmth. He made pancakes on Sundays, even if they were slightly burnt. I decorated the living room, filling shelves with books and little plants. Every night, we curled up on the couch, whispering about the future. He'd say, "One day, we'll buy a house with a big yard." And I'd reply, "And I'll plant flowers everywhere." We talked about children, even chose names for them, laughing at our silly arguments. At that time, it felt like the world belonged to us. But slowly, tiny cracks began to show. It wasn't obvious at first, just small moments that made my chest tighten. Sometimes, he'd come home later than usual. Sometimes, he'd stare at his phone longer than he stared at me. Sometimes, his laughter felt distant, forced, as if I wasn't the one making him happy anymore. I brushed it off, told myself it was just stress from work. He was building his career, working long hours at the firm. I told myself, he still loves me, nothing has changed. But deep inside, a whisper of doubt began to form. The bond we shared, the one that once felt unbreakable, was starting to feel fragile. He still kissed me goodnight, but sometimes it felt rushed, distracted. He still asked about my day, but sometimes his eyes didn't meet mine. I wanted to believe that love was enough to carry us through, but deep down, I could feel something shifting, something heavy, something I couldn't name. And then it happened. A small moment, but one that burned into my memory forever. We were at a family dinner, surrounded by laughter, clinking glasses, happy faces. Daniel leaned in to whisper something to my sister, and the way she blushed, the way he smiled, sent a chill straight through me. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was imagining things. But that night, as I lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling, I knew something was about to break. The next morning, I tried to shake off the unease. Daniel kissed me goodbye, just like always, but I caught a glimpse of his phone, buzzing with a message, and the name flashing across the screen was my sister's. My stomach tightened, but I smiled, pretending not to notice. After all, why would my sister be messaging him? Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she needed his advice. Maybe I was overthinking. That day, I called my mother. We spoke about recipes, neighbors, and the weather. But deep inside, I wanted to ask her, "Have you noticed something strange between Daniel and my sister?" The words never left my lips because I was afraid of the answer. When Daniel came home that night, he was unusually quiet. He hugged me, but it felt different. Not cold, just distant. Like his arms were there, but his heart wasn't. I told myself, marriages go through phases. Not every day could feel like the first day of love. I reminded myself, this was my first love. My only love. The man who promised forever. Days turned into weeks, and the little cracks grew wider. Sometimes, he would stay late at work, missing dinner. Sometimes, my sister would cancel plans with me at the very last moment. And sometimes, I'd catch them exchanging glances at family gatherings. Quick, almost invisible, but heavy enough to twist my gut. I began to watch. Quietly, carefully. The way his phone never left his side. The way he smiled at messages. But never told me what was so funny. The way my sister avoided eye contact whenever Daniel was in the room. Still, I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Love required trust, didn't it? But trust is a fragile thing. And once the seed of doubt is planted, it grows. Quietly, ruthlessly. One Sunday, Daniel suggested we visit my parents. He insisted we should spend more time with family. It sounded sweet, but when we arrived, I noticed something. He seemed more relaxed, more alive. When my sister entered the room, and when she laughed, his eyes lingered longer than they should. I smiled through it all, my heart pounding, my palms sweating. I didn't want anyone to see my fear, not even him, especially not him. That night, I lay awake beside him, watching him sleep. His chest rose and fell. Steady, come. While my mind was a storm, I whispered to myself, he's mine. He's always been mine. I won't lose him. But even as I said it, a voice inside me whispered, something is slipping away. The next day, I decided to test him. At breakfast, I casually asked, did you talk to my sister recently? He froze, just for a second, but I saw it, that flicker of hesitation, before he smiled and said, oh, she just asked me about her car troubles. I nodded, pretending to believe him, but my chest burned, because I knew it wasn't just about her car. I tried to focus on my work, on my students, their laughter, their little voices. Teaching was my escape, my safe space. But even in the classroom, my thoughts returned to Daniel and my sister. Every innocent smile, every quick text, replayed in my head until I felt sick. Then came my birthday. Daniel had always been thoughtful, planning small surprises, sweet gestures. But this time, he forgot. The only gift I received was from my sister, a delicate bracelet, expensive, too expensive for her. And when Daniel saw it, his reaction was strange. Not surprise, but recognition. My heart sank because I realized he already knew about the gift. That night, I cried in the shower, letting the water hide my tears. I asked myself, when did love become so heavy? When did my first love, the boy who once made me feel safe, start making me feel afraid? I remembered our vows. His trembling voice sang, I will love you, in sickness and in health, for better or worse. But now, I wondered, did he mean it? Or was it just words, spoken in front of people, easy to break in secret? The days after were filled with silence. Not complete silence, but the kind that lives between words. He'd ask about dinner. I'd answer shortly. He'd talk about work. I'd nod, pretending to listen. We were together, but not connected. And in that silence, my doubts grew louder. One evening, I picked up his jacket to hang it. A faint smell lingered. Not mine. Not his usual cologne. It was perfume, sweet, floral, the kind my sister wore. I froze, the jacket slipping from my hands. My heart thundered. My body shook. I whispered to myself, it can't be. It just can't be. But the truth was already clawing its way into my chest. And deep down, I knew something was about to shatter. And nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, I woke up before Daniel. I watched him sleep, his face so peaceful, as if nothing was wrong. For a moment, I almost believed everything was fine. Almost. I made breakfast. Pancakes, his favorite. He smiled, kissed my forehead, thanked me. But as he reached for his phone, I noticed it again. The way he held it so close, guarding it like a secret. I told myself, stop imagining things. But the knot in my stomach only grew tighter. Later that day, I visited my sister. She greeted me with a warm hug, her eyes bright, her smile wide. "Come in, I made coffee," she said, like nothing was unusual. But as I sat there, watching her pour the coffee, I studied her face. The glow, the excitement in her eyes. It wasn't just about work. She was hiding something. I could feel it. I asked casually, "So, are you seeing anyone?" She laughed, shaking her head. "No. You know me. Too busy for that." Her voice was light, but her hands trembled, just slightly, enough for me to notice. I sipped the coffee, forcing a smile, and felt my chest tighten. She was lying. I knew it. But why? On the way home, my mind wouldn't stop racing. Was I losing both, my husband and my sister? At the same time, the thought was unbearable. That night, Daniel came home late again. I asked, "Where were you?" He said, "Just working late. Too many deadlines." His voice was calm. Too calm. Practiced. I wanted to scream, to accuse him, to demand the truth. But instead, I stayed silent, because part of me still hoped I was wrong. The following weekend, my family planned a dinner. A simple gathering. Food, laughter, stories. I told myself, maybe it would bring us closer. Maybe things would feel normal again. But the moment we arrived, I saw it. The way my sister's eyes lit up when Daniel walked in. The way Daniel smiled. Not at everyone, but at her. It was quick, subtle, but undeniable. Throughout dinner, I watched them. The stolen glances, the shared laughter, the small gestures no one else noticed. Everyone else seemed happy, but inside, I was crumbling. I tried to focus on my parents, their stories, their warmth. But every time Daniel spoke, I saw my sister's face glow. And every time she laughed, Daniel's eyes softened. After dinner, we all sat in the living room. My mother told a funny story. Everyone laughed. Except me. I was too busy watching, memorizing every glance, every smile. It was like watching my own heart being stolen, piece by piece, right in front of me. When we left, I walked beside Daniel in silence. He asked, "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. Just tired. But inside, I was screaming. That night, as he slept, I stood by the window, staring at the stars. I remembered the night he proposed. Under the same stars, he had promised forever. He had said, "You're my first love, and my last." But now, those words felt empty, fading into lies. The next few days, I watched more carefully. Every detail, every gesture, the way he dressed better, when he said he was working late, the way my sister avoided my calls, more often than before, the way both of them carried guilt in their eyes, though they tried to hide it. I began writing in a journal, my secret space, where I poured out every fear, every suspicion. It became my way of surviving, because speaking it aloud felt too dangerous. One entry read, "If I'm right, I'll lose everything. If I'm wrong, I'll lose myself." The weight of silence grew heavier every day. I smiled in public, laughed with colleagues, taught my students. But inside, my heart was cracking. Slowly, painfully. One evening, I suggested we take a trip, just the two of us. "To get away," I said. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, that sounds nice." But his eyes told another story. He wasn't excited. He wasn't eager. It was as if he was afraid. That night, I prayed. I prayed for clarity, for strength, for the truth to reveal itself. Because I knew something was coming, something big, something that would change everything. The next morning, I found a lipstick mark, faint, on Daniel's shirt collar. Not mine. A shade I never wore. My hands trembled. My knees went weak. I whispered, "Please, let this be a mistake." But in my heart, I knew the cracks were no longer cracks. They were breaking lines. And soon, everything would shatter. The days passed, but the unease in my chest never left. Every smile Daniel gave felt rehearsed. Every word my sister spoke felt heavy with secrets. I tried to ignore it, to believe in love, in family, in loyalty, but the cracks were too deep, the silence too loud. One evening, I invited my sister for dinner. Just her. Just me and Daniel. I thought, maybe if we sat together, the truth would fall into place. She arrived, wearing a new dress, her hair shining, her perfume filling the room. Daniel's eyes flickered, just for a second, but I caught it, that flicker, of recognition, of desire. We sat at the table, eating, smiling, talking. On the surface, everything looked perfect, but beneath, my heart was racing. I studied their faces, their movements, the way she laughed a little too hard at his jokes, the way his eyes lingered a little too long when she spoke. I gripped my glass, forcing myself to stay calm. I told myself, don't accuse, not yet, just wait. After dinner, Daniel offered to walk her out. I watched them through the window as they stood by her car, too close, their heads bent together, their voices low. When he finally came back, I pretended to be busy. Everything okay? I asked. He nodded quickly. Yes, just saying goodbye. But his voice betrayed him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every detail. Her laughter, his smile, their closeness. It was like a movie I couldn't turn off. The next morning, I decided to visit my parents. I needed comfort, something steady, something safe. They welcomed me with open arms, their warmth wrapping around me. But even there, I couldn't escape my thoughts. My mother noticed. She touched my hand gently. Is everything okay, sweetheart? I forced a smile. I'm just tired. That's all. But inside, I wanted to scream the truth. I didn't, because how could I? How could I break their hearts? With mine? Later that week, Daniel said he had another late night at work. I nodded, pretending to believe him. But when he left, I sat alone, staring at my phone. Something inside me snapped. I called my sister. Hey, do you want to come over? Asked casually. She hesitated, then said, I can't. I'm busy. Her voice shook, and that was enough. I hung up, my hands trembling. I whispered to myself, they're together. I know it. I wanted proof. I needed proof. But how? That night, as Daniel slept, I checked his phone. My heart pounded. My hands shook, but I unlocked it. And there, I saw the messages. Her name, her words, her heart emojis, his replies, promises, secret plans. It was all there, in black and white. My stomach dropped. My world shattered. The man I loved, the sister I trusted, betraying me together. I closed the phone, tears streaming down my face. My hands numb. I looked at Daniel, sleeping peacefully beside me, as if nothing was wrong. And I thought, how long? How long have you been lying to me? The next day, I carried myself like nothing happened, smiling, talking, pretending. But inside, a storm raged. I watched my sister, avoiding my eyes. I watched Daniel, guarding his phone. And I thought, do they think I'm blind? Do they think I'll never know? Every interaction, every word, was now poisoned. Family dinners felt like traps. Phone calls felt like lies. Love felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I began noticing everything. Her new jewelry, expensive, too expensive. His bank withdrawals, unexplained. Their absences, lining up perfectly. It was all falling into place. Painfully, cruelly. One evening, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at myself. Who am I now? I whispered. A wife? A sister? Or a fool? I didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes, once full of trust, now burned with suspicion. Her smile, once warm, now broken. The weight of betrayal was crushing me. And yet, I said nothing. Not yet. Because deep inside, a fire had started. A thought whispered, if they can betray you, then you can fight back. The seed of revenge was planted. But before that, I had to endure, to watch, to wait, to let the truth ripen. And so, I kept silent, letting them believe their secret was safe. Because I knew the moment of breaking was coming. And when it came, none of us would ever be the same. The night I opened Daniel's phone, my world shattered. I stared at the messages, reading them over and over, hoping I was wrong. Her name, my sister's name, glowing on the screen. Her words, soft, playful, intimate. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect. And his reply, I love you more than I can ever admit out loud. I dropped the phone, my chest burning, My vision blurred with tears. My own sister. The girl I grew up with. The one I defended, loved, trusted. And Daniel. My husband. My first love. The man I believed was my forever. I couldn't breathe. I sat there, in the dark, listening to his calm breathing beside me, as if nothing was wrong. How could he sleep so peacefully while destroying me? I wanted to scream, to wake him, to throw the phone at his face, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped out of bed, walked to the kitchen, and sank to the floor. I buried my face in my hands, shaking, crying, whispering, Why them? Why us? Hours passed, the sun slowly rising, painting the world in light, while my own world crumbled in shadows. When Daniel woke, I was already in the kitchen, pretending to make breakfast. My face was pale, my eyes swollen, but he didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't want to. Morning, he said, kissing my cheek. I froze, forcing myself not to pull away. His lips, the same lips that kissed my sister, now touched me. The thought made me sick. I smiled weakly. Morning, inside. My heart screamed. The day passed in a blur. Every word he spoke, every move he made, was poisoned with betrayal. When he smiled, I saw his lies. When he laughed, I heard her name. That evening, I called my sister. I needed to hear her voice, to test if I could tell. If guilt dripped from her words. Hey, I said softly. She answered quickly, cheerful, too cheerful. Hi, how are you? Her voice cracked, just slightly, but I caught it. I asked about her day, her plans, her life. She spoke easily, but I could hear it. The weight, the carefulness. She was hiding something,
protecting something.
and that something was him. When I hung up, I stood in silence, trembling. My own sister. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. For days, I walked through life like a ghost, smiling at work, laughing with friends, but inside, broken. At night, I lay beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling, while he slept peacefully. The pain was unbearable, but beneath the pain, something else began to grow.
A spark.
A whisper. If they can betray you, you don't have to stay silent. The seed of revenge was planted, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed to be sure. I needed proof. Undeniable proof. Not just messages. Not just whispers. So, I watched. I listened. I waited. Every time Daniel said he was working late, I wrote it down. Every time my sister made an excuse, I remembered. The puzzle pieces began to connect. One night, he said he was staying late at the office. I nodded, kissed his cheek, smiled, and then I followed him. My heart pounded, my palms sweaty, as I trailed his car through the streets. He didn't go to the office. He went to her. I parked a block away, my eyes fixed on their silhouettes. Opening the door for her, his hand brushing her arm, her smiling, laughing, leaning too close. It was all there. The proof, the truth, the betrayal. I gripped the steering wheel, my nails digging into my palms. Tears streamed down my face. Hot, burning. I whispered, How could you? How could you both? But as I sat there, broken, another voice whispered inside me. Now you know. Now you're free. Now, you can decide what comes next. I drove home, my body numb, my mind racing. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I lay awake, imagining ways to expose them, to hurt them, the way they hurt me. My love for Daniel
Was gone.
my trust in my sister, destroyed. All that remained was pain and the fire of revenge. But revenge was dangerous. What if people blamed me? What if my parents found out and their hearts broke? What if the world saw me, not as a victim, but as cruel? The risks swirled in my mind, but still, the fire burned. By morning, I had made a choice. I would not be silent. I would not be their fool. They wanted to betray me in the shadows, but I would drag them into the light. And that was the beginning of my plan. The morning after, I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes swollen, but something had changed. The broken girl staring back now carried a fire in her eyes. I whispered to my reflection, They think they can destroy me, but they don't know me. I had been silent, patient, forgiving all my life, but this betrayal was too big. This betrayal deserved an answer. Still, every plan I imagined
Carried risk.
what if my family found out and chose her side? What if Daniel twisted the truth, made me look crazy? What if people whispered she wasn't enough for him? The fear tangled with my anger, but anger always won. That evening, Daniel returned home. He smiled, kissed me, asked about dinner. I played my part like an actress on stage. Inside, every touch made my skin crawl. Long day? I asked softly. He nodded. Yeah. Meetings ran late. I swallowed my rage, pretending to believe his lies. My hands shook, but I hid them under the table. Later, he showered, humming a tune, as if nothing in the world was wrong. I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone, pretending to be busy. But my mind screamed, "You were with her." When he climbed into bed,
He reached for me.
I froze, forcing a small smile, then turned away. "Just tired," I whispered. He didn't notice, or maybe
He didn't care.
I lay there, stiff, my body beside him, my soul miles away. Sleep never came. The next morning, I made a decision. If I wanted to destroy them, I needed proof, undeniable. Undeniable enough to silence every excuse. So I began my secret work. When Daniel left for the office, I searched his drawers, his laptop,
His car.
everywhere. At first, nothing. Then, tucked inside his jacket pocket, a receipt, dinner for two, at a hotel restaurant. The date matched the night he said he was working late. My chest tightened, my breath caught. Proof, little by little. It was coming to me. That night, when Daniel kissed me goodbye, I smiled sweetly. But the moment he left, I followed again. This time, I didn't sit in my car. I crept closer, my heart hammering, every step echoing in my ears. I saw them. Together, their laughter spilling into the night. He touched her hand. She leaned in, their faces inches apart. I felt my knees weaken.
But I forced myself to stay.
I pulled out my phone, snapped pictures, each one a blade of truth. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept going. Photo after photo, proof after proof. They thought they were clever, but they were handing me the rope with which I would hang them. Driving home, my body trembled. My hands gripped the wheel too tightly. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was armed, but still,
Doubt gnawed at me.
what if my parents couldn't bear it? What if my sister cried, begged, and they forgave her? What if Daniel twisted everything, claimed I was jealous, unstable? The fear, it never left, but the pictures in my phone gave me strength. They were my shield, my weapon. That weekend, my sister came over. She smiled, hugged me, asked about life. Her arms wrapped around me, but her scent made me sick. I held back tears, forcing myself to stay calm. We sat together, drinking tea, laughing. On the surface, two sisters, sharing a normal afternoon. But beneath the surface, I wanted to scream. I wanted to shove the photos in her face, demand answers, watch her break. But not yet. Not now. I needed the perfect moment, the stage, the audience, because my revenge would not be private. It would be public. Everyone would know. That night, I lay awake again. Daniel's arm draped over me, heavy, suffocating. I whispered into the darkness, "You will regret this." In the days that followed, I collected more screenshots of messages, receipts, photos, piece by piece. The puzzle grew, and with every piece, my fear began to fade, replaced by determination. The betrayal had broken me, but revenge was building me back, stronger, colder,
Smarter.
But revenge is never simple, because one question haunted me, louder than all the rest. What if someone finds out it was me who exposed them? The thought chilled me. What if my parents blamed me for shattering the family? What if Daniel turned people against me, claimed I was bitter, vengeful? What if, instead of justice, I was painted as cruel? The danger was real,
But so was the fire inside me.
I knew, sooner or later, I would make my first move, the move that would set everything in motion, the move that would bring consequences, rippling like waves. And once I began, there would be no turning back. I whispered again, "Be ready," because the storm was coming. The day finally came when I couldn't hold it in any longer. I had the pictures, the receipts, the screenshots. Enough proof to destroy them both. But I knew. Revenge is not about rushing. It's about timing. And timing is everything. I spend hours thinking, planning, imagining every outcome. What if I exposed them too soon and they twisted the truth? What if I waited too long and lost my chance? The questions never stopped, but neither did the fire in me. So I took my first step. I sent an anonymous message to Daniel's office email. Inside, the photos, no words, just truth. I wanted him to feel the panic, the fear, the realization that someone knew. When he came home that evening, his face was pale. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sit still. He kept checking his phone, his email, biting his nails. I sat across from him, sipping tea, hiding my smile. Rough day, I asked gently. He looked up, startled. Yeah, just a lot of pressure at work. I nodded, pretending to believe, while inside I whispered, liar. That night, I heard him whispering on the phone. His voice was low.
Panicked.
I pressed my ear to the door. I don't know who sent them, but they have pictures. If anyone sees, we're finished. I closed my eyes, savoring the sound, the fear, the cracks beginning to show. It was working. The next step was riskier. I created another anonymous account and sent the same photos to my sister's workplace. I imagined her face when she opened them. The shame, the fear, the realization that her perfect facade was breaking. For days, both of them were restless. Daniel came home moody, distracted, always glued to his phone. My sister avoided family gatherings, making excuses, claiming she was busy. I stayed quiet, patient, watching it all unfold. But with every victory, the danger grew. What if they discovered it was me? What if they traced the emails and the proof pointed back? The thought kept me awake, tossing, turning, my heart racing in the dark. One night,
Daniel sat beside me.
his face was tense, his eyes dark. Have you noticed anyone strange around lately? He asked. I forced a calm smile. Strange? No. Why? He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Just, someone is trying to ruin me, to ruin us.
I don't know why.
The words cut me.
Us.
Even in betrayal. He called her part of us. Not me. Never me. I bit back the tears, hiding them with a smile. Maybe it's just stress. Maybe you're overthinking. He nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. The risk was real now. One wrong move, and everything could collapse on me. But I couldn't stop. The anger was too deep. The betrayal,
Too heavy.
So, I made my boldest move yet. At the next family dinner, I planted the seed. We were all gathered. My parents, Daniel, my sister. Laughter filled the room. Plates clattered. Glasses clinked. And then, casually,
I spoke.
funny how secrets never stay hidden, don't you think? The table fell quiet. For a moment, Daniel froze. My sister's fork slipped. My parents looked confused, asking, "What do you mean?" I smiled, sipping water. Oh, just something I read, about how the truth always finds a way out, no matter how hard you try to hide it. The silence, the tension. It was delicious. I watched them squirm, struggle to breathe, their laughter gone. I didn't reveal anything, not yet, but the seed was planted, and they knew someone was close. That night, my sister called Daniel. Her voice shook. I listened from the hallway. She suspects. She knows something. We can't let her find out. Her words stabbed me,
But they also fueled me.
I clenched my fists, whispering, I already know. The fear inside me was real, but so was the power. Every move I made pushed them closer to the edge, closer to exposure, closer to ruin. Still,
One thought haunted me.
what if they turn it back on me? What if I end up the villain? In my parents' eyes, the risk was suffocating. But by now, I was too deep, too far. There was no turning back. I looked at Daniel sleeping beside me and whispered, this is only the beginning. Because the first ripple had already been set in motion, and soon, the wave would come crashing down. The night before everything changed, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of Daniel's breath. Every inhale, every exhale, reminded me of the lies he told, the promises he broke. I whispered to myself, tomorrow, It begins.
And it did.
The next morning, I walked into his study, holding an envelope. Inside, copies of the photos, the receipts, everything. I placed it neatly, right on his desk. No words, no notes, just evidence. When he saw it, hours later, his face turned white. His hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. He looked around, as if someone might be watching. His voice cracked.
Who did this?
I stayed in the kitchen, pretending to cook, but my ears caught every word. I smiled softly, whispering,
Me.
By evening, he was restless, checking doors, checking windows, locking everything twice.
He thought someone was hunting him.
And, in a way, someone was. The following day, the ripple hit harder. I mailed another set of photos. This time, to my parents. No return address. No explanation. Just the truth
Dropped into their hands.
When they called me, their voices shook. Is this real? My mother asked. I paused, letting silence stretch for a moment. Then whispered, Yes. The line went quiet. I could almost hear her heart breaking. Later that night, my parents invited us all to dinner. Daniel, my sister,
Me.
I knew what was coming. The table was tense. The forks barely touched food. No one could look up. Finally, my father spoke. Is there something you want to confess? Daniel? Daniel froze. My sister's eyes widened. Her hand slipped from her fork. They exchanged a look, a guilty, terrified look. And, in that moment, I felt it. The first blow landing. Daniel tried to lie, to cover,
To deny.
but my parents had the proof. They threw the photos on the table, like shattered glass. My mother cried. My father shouted. The room shook with betrayal. I sat in silence, pretending shock, pretending confusion. But inside, my heart was racing, pounding, alive with fire. The first move had hit, and the consequences were already unraveling. My sister stormed out, tears in her eyes, shame on her face. Daniel followed, begging, pleading, Please, let me explain.
But my parents looked at me.
Their daughter, their loyal one, their victim. My mother held my hand, whispering, You deserved better. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink deep, sweet, comforting, but also heavy, because even as I sat there, victorious,
Something gnawed at me.
the guilt, the danger, the thought of what came next. What if Daniel suspected me? What if my sister figured it out? What if this revenge turned back on me? And I lost everything that night. I couldn't sleep. Daniel came home late, his eyes bloodshot, his voice hoarse. He sat on the bed, silent for minutes. Then, softly, he whispered, Someone's trying to destroy me. I turned my face toward him, expression calm, voice steady. Maybe you destroyed yourself. His head snapped up, eyes wide. For a second, he stared, searching, almost as if he knew, but he said nothing. He just looked away, burying his face in his hands. I lay back, closing my eyes, whispering to myself, This is only the beginning, because the wave was still building, and when it finally crashed, there would be no going back. The storm broke on a Saturday evening. I had chosen the moment carefully, a family dinner, a gathering where no one could escape. My parents, my sister, Daniel, and me, all seated around the same table, pretending to smile, pretending to be whole. But I knew, within minutes, everything would shatter. I stood, holding my glass of water, my voice calm, but cold. I have something to say. All eyes turned to me. My sister's fork froze midair. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. What is it? My father asked. I took a breath, steady, deliberate. Truth. The word landed heavy, like a stone in water. Daniel forced a laugh. Darling, now isn't the time. Sit down. My voice cut through the air. Sharp, unshakable. He froze, eyes narrowing. My sister shifted in her seat, her face pale. I laid the envelope on the table, the same one I had once left on Daniel's desk. Photos, receipts, hotel bookings, every piece of evidence.
Look at them, I said.
Short,
Sharp.
My father leaned forward,
His jaw tightening.
my mother gasped, her hands trembling as she picked up the photos.
Daniel tried to speak.
It's not what it looks like. Then explain it. I interrupted. Explain why your face is next to hers. I pointed at my sister. Her lips parted, but no words came out. You lied to me, I said, voice low.
Steady.
You lied to all of us. Daniel's hand slammed the table. Enough.
No.
My voice cut again. Louder. Harder. Not enough. Never enough. The room grew still. My parents staring. My sister trembling. Daniel glaring. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. You said I was your only one, I whispered. You said forever. You said love. Silence. My sister finally spoke, voice cracking. It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to? I snapped. You meant every kiss. Every secret night. Every betrayal. Her eyes filled with tears. But I didn't stop. And you? I turned to Daniel. You chose her. Over me. After everything. After the years. The trust. The life we built. Daniel leaned forward, his face twisted with anger. You don't understand. No. I cut in. I understand perfectly. You wanted both. And you thought I'd never find out. I let the silence linger. Have it unbearable. Then, slowly, I pulled out my phone. Do you want to know what's worse? I asked. Daniel's eyes flickered. Fear flashed. What did you do? I clicked play. The room filled with voices. His and hers. Recorded whispers. Confessions. Proof. My parents gasped. My mother covered her mouth. My father slammed his fist against the table. My sister broke down,
Sobbing.
Daniel's face turned pale, drained, hollow. You recorded us? He shouted.
No.
I tilted my head. You recorded yourselves when you thought the world was blind. The room collapsed into chaos, voices clashing, tears spilling, anger burning, and in the center, I stood still, cold, unshaken, because this was my moment. Daniel begged. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. His voice desperate, broken. I stared at him, my face unreadable. Fix it? You destroyed it. My sister whispered. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her, eyes hard. You didn't hurt me. You killed me. The table went silent. No one moved. The truth had burned every bridge, left only ashes. And I, standing in those ashes, felt both powerful and empty, because revenge was never clean. The room was heavy, like smoke after fire. No one moved. No one breathed. Daniel's hand shook, clenched into a fist on the table. He looked at me, eyes wild.
Cornered.
You don't know what you're doing. I tilted my head. Slow, deliberate. Oh, Daniel, I know exactly what I'm doing. My sister sobbed, her face buried in her hands. Please, don't destroy us. Please. I leaned closer, my voice sharp, cutting. You destroyed yourself the moment you touched him. She flinched, as if the words themselves were knives. My father's voice thundered. Is this true? He demanded, eyes on Daniel. Daniel stammered. I made a mistake. A mistake? I spat. No. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Leaving the lights on is a mistake. This was a choice. The table shook as my father slammed his fist again. You betrayed my daughter. In my own house. Daniel's jaw tightened. He tried to stand, but I raised my hand. Sit. One word. Cold. Final. He froze, sat back down. I wasn't the girl who loved him anymore. I was the woman he created. The one he feared. Do you know what love means? I whispered, voice trembling but firm. It means sacrifice. It means loyalty. It means staying, even when it's hard. But you turned love into a game. Daniel shook his head. No, I loved you. I still love you. I laughed. Bitter?
Sharp.
Love doesn't crawl into my sister's arms at night. Love doesn't hide receipts in pockets. Love doesn't whisper lies in the dark. My sister's voice cracked through sobs. I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. I turned to her, eyes cold. You didn't want to stop. You wanted what was mine. Her silence was the only answer I needed. Daniel slammed his palm down, desperate. We can get past this. We can leave. Start over. Leave, I hissed. You mean run? His eyes darted, panic rising, because deep down, he knew what was coming. My phone buzzed on the table. The sound made everyone jump. I picked it up, turned the screen to them. The video, the photos, the recordings, all uploaded, all sent to family, friends, church,
Work.
Daniel's face strained of color. My sister's sobs turned into wails. You wouldn't, Daniel's voice cracked. You couldn't. I already did. The words hit harder than a slap. Silence followed, heavy, suffocating. My mother whispered, "No, please, don't drag this outside." I looked at her, my heart aching, but my voice firm. It's too late. Daniel pushed back his chair, pacing like a caged animal. You'll regret this. You'll ruin me. I stood too, meeting him eye to eye. No, Daniel, you ruined yourself. For the first time, he had no words, only rage. Helpless, useless rage. My sister collapsed to the floor, sobbing, begging, "I'll leave. I'll disappear. Please just undo it." I crouched down, inches from her tear-streaked face. You don't get to erase what you did. You don't get to hide. You wanted him. You can keep him. But the world will know exactly who you both are. Her cries filled the room, echoing against walls that once held laughter. Daniel finally broke the silence, his voice low, threatening. You'll pay for this. I smiled, cold, unshaken. No, Daniel. You already paid. Tonight, everyone collects. I turned away, walked toward the door. Behind me, chaos roared. My sister screaming, my mother pleading, my father cursing, Daniel raging. But I didn't stop, because once truth was set free, there was no cage strong enough to hold it. The night air hit me, sharp, cold. I stepped out of the house, heart pounding,
Chest tight.
but before I could take another step, the door slammed open. Daniel stormed out, his footsteps heavy, furious. You can't just walk away, he shouted, his voice cracking through the silence. I didn't turn. I let him shout, let him spit his rage into the air. He grabbed my arm, tight,
Shaking.
You ruined me. Slowly, I turned, eyes locking with his. No, Daniel, I revealed you. He froze, his grip faltering. The difference between ruin and truth cut deeper than any knife. You think they'll believe you? He sneered, trying to sound strong. But his voice trembled. You think anyone will stand by you? After this circus you've created? I stepped closer, inches from his face. They don't need to believe me. They just need to see you. And now, they will. For the first time, his eyes darted away. Fear, desperation. My sister appeared in the doorway, her face swollen from crying, her voice weak. Daniel, please, let's go. He spun on her, his words venom. Shut up. This is your fault. She crumbled back, clutching the frame for balance. I stared at him, disgust rising like bile.
See?
Even now, you can't take responsibility. Always pointing, always blaming. But not tonight, Daniel. Tonight, it's all on you. His chest heaved, rage burning. But he had no answer. The porch light flickered, moths circling, shadows stretching across his face. And for the first time, I saw him clearly. Not the man I loved. Not the boy I once believed in. Just a coward, dressed in arrogance, hiding behind lies. You loved me once, he whispered, his voice cracking. Doesn't that mean anything? I swallowed. Hard. It meant everything. That's why this betrayal cut deeper than anything else in my life. I stepped back, my voice firm, final. And that's why I'll never forgive you. His jaw tightened, fists clenched, but his body sagged under the weight of truth. My sister took a shaky step outside, whispering, "Please, don't leave me alone in this." I turned to her, my eyes cold. You chose him over me. Now, you can live with that choice. Her lips trembled, her tears falling. But I didn't move. The air grew heavier, silence pressing on all of us. Finally, Daniel spoke again, his voice low, almost pleading. Then what do you want from me? Money? An apology? To beg on my knees? I shook my head slowly. No, Daniel. I don't want anything from you anymore. I wanted truth, and I got it. I wanted justice, and tonight, I delivered it. I turned, stepping off the porch. Every step, heavier than the last, but each one freeing me. Behind me, his voice cracked through the night. You'll regret this. One day, you'll realize you destroyed the only man who truly loved you. I stopped. For a moment, my breath caught, and then I whispered, just loud enough for him to hear. No, Daniel. I destroyed the lie. so I could finally love myself. The silence after was louder than his screams. My footsteps faded down the driveway, his world collapsing behind me. The truth, heavy, brutal, final. The night after, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Silence ringing louder than screams. I thought revenge would feel like victory. Sharp,
Satisfying.
but instead, it felt heavy, like carrying a stone inside my chest. Daniel's face, twisted with anger. My sister's tears, dripping down her cheeks. Both haunted me. Shadows dancing in the corners of my mind. I won.
Didn't I?
I exposed the truth, stripped their lies, left them bare in front of everyone. But why? Why did it still hurt? Morning came. Sunlight spilled across my room, but it felt cold. I brewed coffee, the bitter scent filling the kitchen, yet the taste turned sour in my mouth. I sat alone, hands wrapped around the mug, staring at nothing. Once, this house echoed with laughter, Daniel's voice calling my name, my sister dropping by just to talk. Now, only silence. A silence that didn't comfort, but reminded me of everything lost. I walked through the rooms, each one holding a memory. The sofa where Daniel first kissed me, the hallway where my sister and I used to chase each other as kids, the kitchen where we baked cakes, burning them more often than not. Every memory, now poisoned. Every corner, whispering betrayal. I sat on the floor, my hands pressed against my face, and for the first time since it happened, I cried. Not tears of rage, but of grief. Grief for love that was once pure. Grief for trust that would never return. Grief for the family bond, broken beyond repair. I thought revenge would erase the pain, but instead, it carved the wound deeper. Days passed, and people whispered, neighbors, friends, even strangers on social media. Some praised me, called me brave, said I did the right thing. Others pitied me, said I should have let it go, warned me I'd regret turning my family into enemies. But none of their voices mattered, because when the noise faded, the silence returned. And in that silence, I only had myself. One evening, I stood by the mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes swollen, cheeks pale, but something else.
Strength.
A kind of strength I didn't recognize before. I realized revenge didn't heal me,
But it freed me.
I would never forget what Daniel did, or what my sister chose. The scars would always remain, reminders etched into my heart. But at least now, I wasn't trapped in a lie. I started small, cooking meals for myself, going on walks, journaling at night. Each act, tiny, ordinary, but each one stitched a part of me back together. And slowly, very slowly, I began to breathe again. One afternoon, I saw Daniel from afar. He looked smaller, not in size, but in presence. His arrogance,
Gone.
his charm.
Hollow.
My sister stood beside him, clinging to his arm, but her eyes, empty. For a moment, I felt pity. And then, I turned away, because pity was still too much to give them. Instead, I chose me. For once in my life, I chose myself. I began to dream again, not of Daniel, not of my sister, but of who I could become without them. A woman who survived betrayal. A woman who carried scars, but wore them with dignity. A woman who learned that love doesn't mean losing yourself. Some nights, loneliness still crawled into my bed, whispered doubts, pressed old wounds. But I reminded myself, loneliness was lighter than loving someone who lied. Did revenge satisfy me? Yes. In the moment, it gave me power. It gave me justice. But did it heal me? No. Revenge cannot heal a broken heart. It only clears the fog, so you can finally see the ruins for what they are. And once you see the ruins, you have a choice: to sit among them forever, or to rise and build again. I chose to rise. So now, when I think of Daniel, my chest no longer burns. When I think of my sister, tears no longer blind me. I remember them.
Yes.
I remember the betrayal, the pain, the scars. But I also remember this: I survived. And survival is its own kind of victory. So if you ask me now, did I find peace? Not the kind I once imagined. Not the storybook peace of happy endings, but a quieter peace, born from truth, born from letting go. I married my first love,
And he broke me.
but in breaking me, he also set me free. And maybe, just maybe, that freedom is worth more than any love could ever give. Thank you for watching this emotional journey. I married my first love. Stories like these remind us that love, betrayal, and healing are experiences many of us carry in different ways. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. If you'd like to stay connected and explore more stories of love, life, and lessons, consider subscribing. No pressure, just an open invitation to be part of our storytelling family.